All right, Pride Nation, we are here with another episode of Getting to Know. We're really excited today to have Alexis Sox. Alexis is just graduated. She was at Greensboro for 5 years. She had an outstanding softball career. Um, Before we get started, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. This will be, of course, on our YouTube page. Also, check out our first episode of Getting to Know podcast with Josh Wilson. If you haven't checked that out, that was a really fun interview. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting very close to 1,000 subscribers. So be sure while you're there to check out Josh's video and also subscribe to the channel. So Alexis, just thank you so much again for coming this afternoon and taking some time out of your summer.
Of course. Thank y'all for having me.
So I want to get started. So if you haven't checked out the Josh Wilson interview, we kind of go in depth with our athletes, not just on the field but off the field as well, getting to know them better. And so, Alexis, let's start out with softball. So I know you've told me a little bit about kind of your career and your career at Greensboro, but I want to know because I'm always curious. If you ask Coach Mills, I'm always asking her questions about coaching and all that stuff. I want to go back to kind of when you started playing softball. What got you into softball, and kind of when did you start playing?
So it was kind of always destined that they thought I was going to be a ball player because I basically grew up at the ball field. My pawpaw played when he was younger, baseball, softball, and then my dad played baseball when he was younger as well. And then I grew up going around the ball field with him playing co-ed softball. So I was just always there. And I think I was about 4 years old whenever they put me into t-ball and absolutely fell in love with it. They used to not pick on me, but my family's favorite picture of me is I'm playing first base, actually, ironically. And I'm all serious. I'm ready. And you see the other kids in the background, they're jumping up, playing in the dirt. So they're like, oh, yeah, this is her thing. And
Absolutely.
I think my first travel ball tournament I was 8 years old. And I kind of just went from there. And I think it was sixth grade when I decided, like, okay, I could really like do something with this, and starting to look into colleges and going to camps and stuff like that. So it was really the only sport that I really fell in love with and I stuck to. Tried basketball, that was too much running for me. And then I played a little volleyball for just for fun, middle school and high school, but softball's always been my number one love with that. So it's basically kind of been all I've really ever known, all I've ever done. So
Awesome. So that the what you said a little bit ago actually leads into my next question. Um, when you started to play, you started to play into your teenage years. When did you start thinking about wanting to play in college? Because I know everybody's kind of different when it comes to that. Some people, some kids think about it when they're really young, and some kids don't think about it till their junior or senior year of high school. So when did you kind of get the thoughts of wanting to play in college?
I would say probably I was either like sixth grade, fifth grade or so, because that's when I really started sitting down with my dad, watching the Women's College World Series, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that one day. Like, I want to be like her. I remember when I was younger, one of the reasons I started playing softball also was we were watching it, and the pitcher, back in the day, they used to wear all these ribbons in their hair, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be like her. I want to wear ribbons in my hair. It's a little side note, but I think it was sixth grade that I really decided, like, okay, I could do something with this. And then my like freshman, sophomore year of high school, that's when I really started going to camps and stuff like that, and really trying to put my name out there. And that's when my travel team, Lady Blues, we really started playing showcase ball, going and just having fun and seeing those college coaches come in, trying to put my name out there for them. So
Absolutely. So as you got into that, um, where were you looking? Like, were you just kind of looking at different places? Were you more of, like, were you kind of focused on academics first and then the softball fit, or was it the opposite? How did that work out in the recruiting process?
So I'm very thankful for my parents for that because they always reminded me any college that we went to, just off the top of my head, I went to a lot of like Wilmington camps, Elon camps. I knew like from the start I didn't want to go There was always this big travel ball tournament out in Colorado, and I was like, I don't have any business, wanting to go to school there. So I knew I didn't want to go too far from home because I'm a big like family oriented person. But any college that we went to, my parents were sure to like drill in my head, like, could you go here without softball? Like they wanted to make sure that I was going and looking for the school, not necessarily the athlete aspect or, whether it was D1, D2, D3. They wanted me to go where I was happy. So I was just kind of getting a feel for everything and seeing which place felt most like home.
Awesome. So you're doing a great job of leading into my next questions. So my next question was when when you were going through the recruiting process, and you found Greensboro, um, what was it about Greensboro that made you think that that was the best fit for you?
It's kind of hard to describe. I feel like any athlete can maybe vouch for this. Like I remember the coach at the time, Coach Pfister, she talked to me and 2023 graduate Cassie Simmons. We came in together. So we toured together, and I feel like any athlete, whenever they're walking around campus, they kind of just get that feeling like, I could really see myself here. I really feel at home. And I just immediately got that feeling walking around Greensboro. And I remember because at the time, Greensboro was so small, I didn't really like you hear like UNCG, stuff like that. I had never really looked into it. I knew one of my former teammates had gone there, but I didn't really think anything of it. And I remember leaning over to my mom and I was like, I really like this place. Like I didn't think I was gonna like Greensboro this much. And just from then, like I knew it was gonna be home. So
That's awesome. Um, it's funny because I've kind of heard those same stories. I've had a couple of family members that went to Greensboro as well. They both played sports there, and it's funny how once you get to Greensboro College, it's like wow, this is really an awesome place.
hmm
Scenery, obviously the athletics, and it's certainly like you said a busy place because you have two other Division I schools there as well, just literally 2 minutes down the road. But it's an awesome place. And one of the things I wanted to ask you when it comes to softball in Greensboro is you've been there 5 years. Um, you were there before Coach Mills got there. I wanted to ask you about Coach Mills and when she got there, what were some of the things that were going through your mind? Because you've been there and now you're going through a transition of a head coach, a whole coaching staff that didn't recruit you. Um, what was some of your thoughts during that time when you were going through a coaching change?
I was very nervous at first, just because you never know, like, is the coach going to like me? Are we going to mesh well? But I think it really helped that, with her being at Wesleyan, we had kind of, and I remember Cheyenne at the time that was on the team, she had said really good things about her and, playing against her and seeing kind of her style, we knew that she was going to be a good fit. And I think it really helped also that before she came on, she really made it a point to, get to know us off the field as well. So that made us feel a lot more comfortable. And then having, that I don't know how to describe it, but it was really nerve wracking, but she
Yeah,
immediately had to make us as comfortable as possible and get to know us that way. We didn't feel like she was coming in, step on anybody's toes, like anything like that. Um, but it was a really smooth transition, but it was just kind of nerve wracking at first because, I think I was going my junior year. So, you're just getting used to and close with that other coach. And then when they leave and a new coach comes in, you're like, oh no, kind of got to do it all over again. But me and Coach Mara, we immediately clicked, and I'm very thankful for her. She's definitely been one of the biggest impacts on my college and entire softball career. So.
that's awesome. I wanted to ask you what she did um, when it came to like a team culture. Um,
Mhm.
I asked Josh this in our interview a couple months back, and it's something I like to ask everybody from an athlete's perspective because culture comes up a lot, and it's really important. And a lot of times, um, it can be the difference between, having a really successful season or not, regardless of the talent that you have on your team. So tell me what kind of Coach Mills did for you, and then obviously the team when it came to the culture of the team, and like what changed when she got there.
I think Coach Mayer definitely made it a point to um, us be close both on and off the field, trying to build that team chemistry, not only with each other but with the coaches as well. Like she immediately know, like, we're here for you. Her and Coach Tutors at the time, like, they were like, we're here for you on or off if you ever need anything. Um, so just really making that a point. And she also kind of set the standard as soon as she got there. She was like, this is the program that I'm trying to build. These are the type of players that I want on my team. Players that have that drive and have that confidence, and just really drilling that into us. And you can just tell, like, in practice style, the difference and how much she wants it and the fire that she has. And it kind of just, it's contagious. Like, it can spread to the team. So just building that culture of drive and wanting to be there, wanting to win. She just has that winning mindset about her. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I want to transition real quick into kind of your career. Um, just reading this off of my notes here. You broke the career doubles record in Greensboro softball history this year. You kind of obliterated it in a way. You blew it out of the water. Um, you were top five in doubles in the NCAA for a lot of this year. You were actually at the top of the list for a few weeks. You had a career high 383 average, and you also had a career high in slugging percentage and on base percentage. So I wanted to ask you, um, first of all, like, what do you think about those numbers for yourself? Because I know, just getting to talk to you a little bit, I know you're humble and you're awesome when it comes to being a team player. But like for you, just individually in your mind, what are you most proud of in your accomplishments this year?
For myself, really, I was just so happy because I told my parents and everyone coming into this year, it's my fifth year. I'm really coming back just to have fun and, like, go out with a bang. So knowing that not only did that, because this year I've also had the most fun that I've ever had. And I think that transitioned onto the field as well. In the back of my head, knowing that I produced the way that I wanted to, also, that kind of makes it feel even better. And just really having fun with it. But yeah, it felt really.
Awesome. Tell me real quick. I'm gonna let our intern. I'll go ahead and introduce her, Caroline. She is our intern for this summer. Caroline just graduated. She was a soccer player at Wofford, and she is gonna get her grad degree from South Carolina here soon. But she's gonna also jump in. I want to ask one more question before Caroline jumps in. Um, from a career progression standpoint, I looked at your numbers, and it's so cool to see because it's not only you. There's some other players that are the same way. That, like, as you go from your freshman to sophomore to junior and senior years, like the numbers just get better and better each year. How do you how do you just tell us how does that kind of translate from each year? What is it? Is it the work ethic? Is it the experience that you have? A lot of times, more experienced athletes typically have those higher numbers. But what is it like? How do you go from your numbers from your freshman year and just they continue to improve, year in year out to this year? You almost hit 400 and you know destroyed the doubles record. Like how does that happen?
I think experience is the biggest thing. Coming in, they always say that college is it's a whole nother platform. It really is. I played on a lot of big stages from high school to travel ball. But I got to college and it was a whole other ball game. And I think it really helped that the longer I was at Greensboro, the more I was kind of thrown into a leadership role. So I think knowing that I had the team on my back and I wanted to carry them and be there for them both on and off the field as well. I think that helped me personally, also knowing that they had the confidence in me and my coaches had the confidence in me. So I needed to have that confidence in myself as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's awesome. I'd love to jump in here, just talk about your career as a whole. I know you've been here for 5 years, and like you've talked about, you've had a lot of experience. I love to know just what kind of lessons and takeaways that you'll take away, not only from softball, but from your team as well, into what you plan to do next after your graduation.
Yeah, so a lot of the big lessons that I've learned is, like I said, kind of being thrown into that leadership role. Through high school and growing up, I felt like I always led through my actions. Like I've always been that kind of known leader. But coming to college, I came here as a catcher, so I kind of had to be that voice on the field as well. And even though I had to transition to a different position, I still learned to be that leader for my teammates using my voice as well, and just being there for them. And then I also kind of going back to that, I learned a lot about adversity, because we are playing a game where if you get out 7 out of 10 times, that are successful. So really, just knowing that I can do that and I can work through failure, because you can't be afraid of failure in this sport. It's bound to happen. So just learning to rise through that. And then the adversity with some of the injuries that I've had to go through, learning to work through those and leaning on my teammates and on my family and coaches. That meant a lot. And then I'm also kind of moving forward, like after college, after softball, I'm going into the healthcare field. So that's a field that you really have to learn to face adversity and learn to think on your feet and work through that as well.
That sounds awesome. So what degree are you graduating with from Greensboro College? And can you talk a little bit more about what you're planning to do next after graduation?
Yeah, so I came to Greensboro and graduated with a bachelor's in health science, with a minor in biology. And then when I decided that I wanted to take my 5th year, we were looking around at what I could do to get those extra classes because I was already kind of ahead. And we realized that I was only a few classes away from having a exercise and sport studies major. A lot of those classes and health science classes are kind of intertwined. So I added that major on as well. So I ended up graduating with the health science and the exercise and sports studies degree. And I want to use that. I would like to eventually go to PA school. So that's my end goal. I just recently accepted a full-time position at the hospital that I'm working at, working as a nurse tech. I kind of immediately got thrown into adulting, because we played that Friday against Pfeiffer. And then I kid you not, like us losing, we didn't have anything to do. So I literally started working full time on Monday. So I jumped right into it, working 3 12-hour shifts a week. But I'm working there to maintain and gain the clinical hours that I need to apply to PA school. So that's my end goal there.
Awesome. I was going to ask real quick. This is where we talked about jumping around. One thing that stuck with me when you were talking about your transition as a catcher. What was that like? Because I'm sure that was interesting, I guess, in a way, because if you were a catcher coming in, I guess you assume that's where you're going to play in college, and then having to eventually transition out of that. What was that like?
I'll admit it was very hard, both mentally and physically, because I was catching since I was 10 years old. And I had played a little bit like in travel ball. Once you get recruited and you have those committed players, sometimes, like I remember in particular, we had a catcher who was committed on our travel team. So they would if they knew college coaches were going to be at that game, they would let her catch, and I would go have some fun in the outfield, be a grass fairy for a day, or they would throw me at first base some too. And so I had some experience at first before having to transition to it in college, but just mentally it was really hard. Because not only was I afraid, was I going to be as successful at another position, but I knew in the back of my head I didn't want to play with that fear of, oh my gosh, if I keep getting hurt, I'm not gonna be able to play at all. But really having my teammates there to support me transitioning, because that was another thing too, is moving to a different position. I didn't want to step on any of my teammates' toes. Like I felt bad like having to go, practice with them, and possibly if I were to play over someone, I felt really bad. So that was hard as well, but everyone was so like they were there for me, my roommate, my teammates, just being there for me and knowing that they support me in whatever decision I have to make and do. So
Awesome. One thing I wanted to talk about too. You mentioned earlier how softball is a game of failure, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about because it was really cool to see in the tournament. You started out, you were kind of struggling at the plate, and um, you could kind of see, it was kind of getting frustrating, as it would with anybody. And you come back, and I don't remember if it was I guess technically it'd be the second game. I think it was the second game against Meredith, and then of course you played him again. Um, it was like a total like transformation almost. Like everything looked different. You started hitting the ball really well. What was that like going through that in the tournament, especially when you know you're probably thinking in your mind, my team, needs me to perform in order to win, and then it wasn't happening, and then you turn it around. What was that turn? How did you do that?
Um, I'll admit that was very hard as well. And I was explaining to my dad, and he kind of told me going into this year, you kind of feel that like end of your career creeping up on you. And I don't know what it was. I described to him that whenever we lost that first game to Meredith in the tournament, something flipped in my mind. I was like, oh crap, like if we lose, like that's it for me. And I think that kind of, even though I shouldn't have had that thought in my head, I think that's what kind of it trained onto the field that I was almost playing scared. Like I didn't want my career to end. So it was kind of affecting me that way. But my teammates, I could not be more thankful for them. I remember Kenzie Davis getting in my face, Jillian getting in my face, and they're like, Lexi, like you are fine. Like we have so much confidence in you. And just knowing that my teammates were there for me and they had like their confidence in me wasn't changing, that helped me as well. And I always am thankful for my dad because it was either the night before that last Meredith game or the day before, he came up and threw front toss to me, a little dad-daughter therapy. So just helping with that. And I remember I was picking on him because I've been playing against Lily Davis, one of the great pitchers for Meredith, for years, and she's always been one of my competitors to hit off of. And my dad was literally in our batting cage, like trying to throw the curveball like she throws. So just knowing that he's willing to make that drive and be there for me and do that, it meant the world. So, and I think, in return, it helped well because I told him, I said, you're pretty good at that curveball because it looked exactly like hers did. So, so it
That's
felt,
so cool. That's so cool. So go into your parents. Let's go into that a little bit before we go into kind of some academic things. Um, Tell us how important your parents have been in your softball career. Obviously, softball career, but your life in general. Because you've mentioned them multiple times already. How important have they been in leading you, up into college and then through college and now into, your working life as a real adult?
yeah. Oh, they've meant the world. They have been my absolute rocks. My dad, I don't know if y'all know this, but my dad actually coached me my entire life. And he was always there to remind me, like, the stereotype of, oh, coach's kid, like whatever. He said, no, you're sorry, you're not going to be that. So he was 10 times harder on me than any other player that he coached. And I'm very thankful for that looking back. At the time, I hated it, but looking back, I'm so thankful for it because it made me so mentally tough that when I got to college, I was like, okay, like I can do this. And then my mom being my rock, she's always walking around with a camera, capturing those memories, and just being my rock as well to support me, her and the rest of my family there. That was another thing I loved about Greensboro is that my hometown is 25 minutes up the road. So knowing that on game days, I can look up and see my grandparents, my sister, my parents, it meant the world. So they're my besties.
Before we transition into academics and a little bit more about your life in Greensboro, I know you've played softball here for 5 years and you've had a lot of experiences. I'd love to know about your favorite memory from Greensboro College softball or any particular moment that stands out to you.
Oh goodness. There's so many. Um, as a team, I would have to say as a team, probably just those bus rides and moments that we have together off the field and hanging out, getting to know each other, and really being like those girls are my best friends. On a personal level, honestly, probably would have to be this year in that tournament, that Meredith game when I was able to pull through. Um, Not only because I had been struggling and I was able to make that moment happen. But just how hyped the team got and everything. And then probably also, I mean, there's a couple at the Meredith game. Looking back, I was telling my parents the other day, I didn't realize how big that moment was in the moment. Like I guess I was trying not to think about it. But hitting that home run against Meredith at Meredith during the regular season, running into my teammates and how hyped they were. And that ended up being the home run that won the game. That would probably have to be one of my favorites.
That's awesome. I know you had so many great experiences, not only on the field, but probably in the classroom too. Do you have a favorite class or professor at Greensboro College that you've loved taking?
Yeah, so I have a few favorite professors, just because that's one of the things I loved most about Greensboro is your professors cared so much about you as people. You weren't just another student that they had to see every day. Some of my favorites were Dr. Carter, Professor Gold, Professor Harrison. They were just always there for the softball players, rooting for us. They would come to our games sometimes and cheer for us. Favorite class would probably have to be I took it with Professor Gold, her exercise and prescription class, because that was really the first class that I got to take some stuff that I learned and really put it into a real life perspective. Because we got to meet with a real client, of faculty of the school, and we got to work with them and take them through an exercise program, and do like these different tests on them to see like what program would fit them best. So I thought that was really cool to do and like see that hard work transition over into a real life component.
Awesome. I got a couple questions as well about your schooling and just about Greensboro in general. With you being able to spend, the last 5 years, of your life in Greensboro, what are some of the things that you enjoy just about the city? Like, going, to hang out or favorite restaurants? Like what was your favorite parts about Greensboro?
I just love how, not only being close to home, like that way, if I needed my family, I could go see them right away. Or if I just needed a, dinner paid for every now and then, I could go home. Just kidding, maybe. But the city itself, I love how it's not a small city by any means, but you have that city life, but then it's not, like I went to New York last year. It's not, that crazy. But just always having something to do. Some of our favorite restaurants like to go to after games, practices, anything like that. Me and Kelsey Craven and Ivy, we are always going to get sushi. So US Sushi, if you're looking for a good sushi spot, we are there at least once a week. Their kickbacks for us is pretty popular after games and stuff. And then probably Little Ari's is a good
Okay.
spot. Yep, if y'all are looking for a good Japanese restaurant, that was one of our go-tos. So,
Awesome. There are a ton of restaurants with even just within a few minutes of the school, which is really cool. Um, One last question I wanted to ask too. So, and this goes into academics and athletics. Um, there's differences between Division One and Division Two, Division Three. Obviously, Greensboro, we're Division Three school. For you as a student athlete, what did you appreciate the most, or and like I said, enjoy the most about being a Division Three athlete in particular? Because there are some differences. when it comes to the time spent on the field versus off the field versus in the classroom. What did you like the most about being a Division III athlete?
I definitely loved the healthy balance between the two. I didn't feel like, a lot of people say that college softball is another job. I never quite felt like that at Greensboro. It was definitely, when it's game time, it's game time. But I definitely felt like there was a healthy balance placed by not only our coaches, but our professors um, on being a student first, then athlete. Every coach that I've ever had, they've been really hard on us about our academics. We've had that study hall time, and they can get us in touch with tutors if we needed it. And then at the same time, our professors, they were really good with us, working with us. If they knew that we were traveling, they were more than willing to, if let us take a test early, let us take it later, to work with us as far as our game schedules go. But I really just loved that I was able to be, Lexi Sox, the human, not labeled as the softball player or the student. Like I was able to be myself at that school and do what I wanted to do while also playing the sport that I loved.
Lexi, just to close out here, what advice would you give to current and maybe even future student athletes at Greensboro College?
Yeah, so probably the biggest advice that I could give is really just to soak up every moment and have fun with it. At the end of the day, yes, there's stats and everything, but if you play free and play the game you love, it's gonna click together anyway. And then also to not forget about, don't get so caught up in, school, softball, everything like that. Like, don't forget to be nice to yourself and take a break and if you need it. But yeah, and just definitely time management.